Georgia Congressman Buddy Carter. Congressman, great to see you this morning. You and I have talked a lot about Laken Riley's murder in your state, and now another woman senselessly murdered by someone who should not have been here. This is what people voted for. They voted for the deportations, the stricter crackdown at the border. But what do you make of this?
That's what people voted for, and that's what people are getting, because Donald Trump is making sure that we have secured that border, stopping the flow of illicit fentanyl into this country, stopping illegals coming into this country. Now, what is our responsibility? Is to get the illegals, the criminals, out of this country who are in here now before something like this happens. And let's don't think that for 1 second this is the only incident. Obviously, Laken Riley's bad enough. Obviously, this is bad enough. I will tell you that last week in my office, I had a grandmother of a 15-year-old granddaughter who was killed in a head-on accident by an illegal immigrant who was driving DUI. That happened a year and a half ago. So this is happening all across our state, all across our nation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, you know, I mean, Democrats just don't seem to get it. This was a big issue in 2024. It looks like it's probably going to be a big issue again in 2026, and it's hard to believe, but the midterms are just around the corner, and we know that your state's going to take center stage in the fight to grow the majority in the Senate. And while President Trump won Georgia by 2% last year, your state's Democrat senators, John Ossoff, Raphael Warnock, rallied their base against the president over the weekend, calling him the king. Take a listen.
This administration is trying to poison our democracy with fear and intimidation. Atlanta, are you ready to speak out? Atlanta, are you ready to organize? Atlanta, are you ready to march? Georgia will bow to no king.
Well, Congressman, I mean, this was basically Ossoff's re-election campaign kickoff. Now, I know your name keeps getting mentioned as a possible opponent for him. What do you make of their messaging? Do you have any kind of timeline when you might make a decision on a Senate race?
Right now, I'm focused on representing the people in the 1st Congressional District, and it is an honor and a privilege to do that. But I will tell you how ironic. Here we have 2 senators from the state of Georgia who both voted against prohibiting men to participate in women's sports, even though 73% of Georgians agree with that. They voted against it. They are out of touch. They're out of tune. They are responsible for what is happening here. Their policies that they have supported in the past have resulted in illegal aliens coming across that border, killing our citizens. They should be held responsible for all of those things. Georgia is a red state, and we are not served well at all by 2 Democratic senators who just don't get it, who keep voting for the 20%. The 80-20 rule, they're always on the side of the 20%.
Yeah, no, good point. And all of this comes as House Speaker Mike Johnson highlighted the downfall of Democrats with a new poll out. Quinnipiac's annual polling showing that for the first time in the poll's history, congressional Democrats are now underwater with their own voters and approval ratings, while congressional Republicans are nearing an all-time high. What do you make of this? Can Democrats come back from this downward spiral? Things are not looking great right now.
Not looking great, and they're lost in the wilderness. I will tell you, they have no direction whatsoever. All they know to do right now is whatever Donald Trump does, we're going to do the opposite. We're just going to throw bombs, and we're just going to try to blow it up. That is all they're doing. They're not leading. All they're doing is just simply trying to disrupt things. I held a hearing in the subcommittee on health that I chair, and it was supposed to be on prescription drugs, and all they wanted to talk about was just the opposite. Just they wanted to talk about something else. They just don't get it. They're lost in the wilderness. They have no direction. They have no leadership. Right now, all they can do is just oppose everything that we're doing, and we're on the offensive. Republicans have taken the offensive under Donald Trump, and we are being aggressive and trying to do what the American citizens wanted us to do, and they made that clear in November.
Yeah, real quickly, Congressman, I want to turn to the issue of Joe Biden and his auto pen. So former President Biden's last-minute pardons marred in the most controversy because people don't even know if he signed them or if it was a mechanical device signing them. You've got a bill to make sure that we never see that happen again. Give us a little bit about what you're thinking here and why you think it's so important.
Listen, a presidential pardon arguably is one of the most important roles that a president can play, one of the most important bills that he can sign. And when you sign that with an auto pen, it makes you wonder, was he really in charge? Did he really mean for these pardons to be issued here? And this would require any presidential pardons to be signed by a president and not by an auto pen. It's one thing to sign, just a correspondence with an auto pen. It's another thing to sign a presidential pardon. Again, that is one of the most significant pieces of legislation that a president can possibly sign. It ought to be by his own signature and not by an auto pen.
Yeah.
And as someone who spent a lot of time on Air Force One, I know that he has ways of getting things printed to him so he can sign them in person.
All right, Congressman, thank you so much.
Thank you.